HIV. Y'all probably know that, but just I don't want to be saying inaccurate things on the air. So the way we're doing things around here on this Monday, December 1st, hour one, we look to the left coast, what's going on the west coast side of town. Hour two, we go national, international, beyond. Starting off with Mindful Monday, where Sahara Ali will help us ground and center ourselves for the week and holiday season ahead. And in the final hour, we do a deep dive with a person or persons of interest, a hot topic. Today, it is the managing partner from the Cochrane firm, attorney Brian Dunn, will be joining us. And we're going to talk about changes in policing. What is happening in policing under the Trump administration? And of course, we'll take your phone calls every hour at 800-920-1580. 800-920-1580. I'm being joined this hour by a regular contributor. She's worked in the public and private as well as the nonprofit sectors and everything from education and economic justice to public health, environmental justice, child welfare, and juvenile justice. She is an activist, a professor, and a mama. LaMikia Castillo, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. Good morning, listeners. Honored to be here with you all on this beautiful first day of December of 2025.
It is. And I was just noting that it was World AIDS Day. I feel like with so many other, I don't know, challenges, I don't want to say problems, I don't want to be a downer, but with so many things on our plate, it's easy to pretend like AIDS and HIV is a thing of the past, that it's no longer impacting our community or our world. But that would be wrong, wouldn't it?
It would absolutely be wrong. Of course, it continues to have an impact on the health of our community. And I'm glad that you're acknowledging World AIDS Day today. And I hope that people are keeping up with what's happening with, the data on AIDS in this country and especially in the Black community.
Yeah, because one of the things that I think people skip over is the fact that still, even though people aren't dying from it because we have treatment, it's still not something you want in your life. And the fastest growing number is Black women.
Right.
For whatever reason. I don't know if it's because our men are just sleeping around or perhaps, people coming in and out of carceral system or drug user, whatever the reason, Black women continue to be the number one group impacted by new cases. And the crazy data that I've seen, LaMikia, is that older people over 50, are getting HIV. And I think a lot of it has to, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that a lot of it has to do with it. Some of us, some of y'all are living a freaky lifestyle. You might not let your kids and grandkids know, but you're out here in these streets.
Out in these streets, and I know from what I've heard, some of the data that I've seen is specifically folks in nursing homes have been exposed at higher rates. And so out here in these streets, out here in these facilities, apparently living a freaky life, like you said, or just maybe not being so freaky, but in spaces where folks are living in proximity to one another and being exposed without knowing it.
Well, okay, that was really nice and sweet the way you put that. However, you don't get exposed to HIV without, you're having sex. You're not going to get it off a spoon or a fork. So some kind of way you knew something was happening. I'm just saying.
No, I hear you. I imagine, though, that, some folks, they may be with one partner and not realize. That's what I mean by.
Yeah. You might be right. You might be with one partner. You might not be for the streets. But that other partner might be doing what they do, or they could have something left over from long ago. That's also a possibility. Right. So,
it's true. Yeah. Apparently, 40% of people living with HIV in the U.S. are Black. 40% of those who have HIV. So we're very disproportionately overrepresented among the population. So it's important for us to stay up to date on what's actually happening, and again, making sure that folks are aware of how you prevent HIV, how you protect yourself, how do you, make sure that you're not exposing yourself unnecessarily to sexually transmitted infections, HIV or AIDS, HIV and otherwise.
Indeed. And so just a reminder, and, I dedicated today's show to three of my loved ones who passed from that. But just a reminder for those of us who are still here, it's not to freak you out, but it's not, sadly, a thing of the past.
Right. It may not be discussed in the mainstream media as much as it used to be, like in the early 90s, but it absolutely is still an issue that we need to be aware of and take the necessary precautions.
And of course, my heart goes out to folks in Africa and other parts of the world because of the USAID funds going away. A lot of folks who were relying on AIDS medication that we were providing, we being the United States, are now out of luck. And it's another good reason that we need to get rid of this administration at our earliest possible convenience.
Yeah, the funding cuts that have taken place unnecessarily, of course, are creating, I think, what is the word I'm looking for? Like an unnecessary public health crises that we were basically helping to manage through the funds that we were supporting or sending to other countries to mitigate this issue. So this administration has lots of issues, but this one being one that I think a lot of people may not even be fully aware of because it's not happening right here on U.S. soil, but it does have implications for Black folks around the world.
Yep, and just humanity. I mean, what one estimate that I read said that close to 500,000 people have died already because of those cuts to USAID, whether it's from starvation or not having their AIDS and HIV medication or not having medical care from clinics and hospitals that were funded by the United States. And this is like 2% of our budget. So it's really actually a very tiny amount. But it's also not like we're just being kind. A lot of these places are places we've bombed, given regime change to, or otherwise created conditions that make it to where they have these problems in the first place. So it's more of a, as I always say, you break it, you buy it scenario than, just us being this angelic country that goes around handing out medicine.
Right. That's one of the consequences of the United States or U.S. imperialism, and then how we're not educated about these issues in the classroom. Right, from an early age, this America as a savior is the image that's given versus what you just described, Dominique. Right, that this nation has gone in and meddled in other people's business, other countries' business, created these problems, and then make it look like, here we are to save everybody and give this money. And when we take it back, it looks like Trump has come in, for some people, right, that Trump has come in and is putting America first and taking our money and putting it where it should be with our people versus understanding exactly what you just described. Is we created the problem, we should be helping to aid it. It's only 2% of our budget. We're spending a lot more money on military and ICE and all these other things that most of us didn't ask for and don't want. But the money that should be going to the places that we've impacted significantly, and why folks are, some of these immigrants are trying to flee their countries and coming to the United States is because of problems that we created.
Yep. Well, we are, I don't know, I have this optimistic feeling this morning. I hope maybe I'm delusional, but I don't think so. Is that this regime, this current insanely unsustainable administration and all of their insanely unsustainable policies will not stand. I don't know how, I don't know why. Well, I know why, and I do think it's the power of the people, but I just don't see 3 more years of this going on and being able to stand. I just don't see it. We've got people in these streets. We've got another No King's Day coming up. We have challenges in court and the clear and obvious health challenges of the president. So we shall see, but I think we have to stay encouraged. You're invited to call in and talk with me and LaMikia at 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DePrima, or KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Guys, don't propose with a ring that she didn't pick out. Trust us, she already has a ring in mind. So engage with Gage Diamonds, in person or online, where Gage's skilled ring designers will work with her to create the perfect setting, matched with the perfect stone. Gage specializes in exquisite lab-grown diamonds. Financing available. GageDiamonds.com. We're engagement's middle name.
We all have regrets. That haircut, that text, missing out on Kohl's Cyber Days. Good news, you can fix at least one of those. Get up to 50% off gifts for everyone on your list. Sunday and Monday only at Kohl's. From cozy favorites to top toys, you've got 2 days until you miss out. Don't let Cyber Days be the sale that got away. Save at Kohl's and Kohl's.com. Select styles. Offer ends December 1st. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrima right now.
Let's get back to Dominique DePrima and LaMikia Castillo. So much to cover. It's funny that we are starting to see, I think, more pushback on this immigration customs enforcement. Of course, the president will use that as an excuse to take away more rights, and now he's sending more National Guard to D.C. after one guardsman was killed, one injured. But that was an attack by a CIA asset. So to me, that doesn't count as like the average citizen attacking federal agents in the street. You're talking about someone we trained, we meaning the U.S. government trained, right? And that someone from Afghanistan who was trained and vetted by our Secret Service, allowed entry by the Biden administration, but given us asylum status by the Trump administration. And you're talking about a Secret Service person. To me, that's not in the same category as citizens of Chicago, lining up garbage trucks to keep ICE out, or the citizens of New York trying to chase them out of town.
No, they're not. They're absolutely not in the same category. And I think that any opportunity that Donald Trump has to fuel his base and their fears of immigrants, he's going to take that opportunity and he's going to use it to make sweeping changes to the law. We've seen it happen over and over again. He's doing that this time with this, this man from Afghanistan who, like you said, was trained by our own folks. He received asylum because of his cooperation, and not just cooperation. He supported the United States in, the efforts against the Taliban, and that's how he ended up here. And now Donald Trump is using that as an excuse to quote unquote, in asylum from all quote unquote third world countries, which we don't even know what that means. What does he mean by all third world countries? He's not talking about just specifically people from Afghanistan. And in fact, he's gone so far as to lump in folks from Somalia with this particular, right. So he takes everything to the extreme, and his base ports it, and he's able to push forward different kinds of legislation, policy changes very rapidly, much, much faster than previous administrations, to move forward his agenda, which is basically to cut everybody out of this country.
He says, LA Times today points out that Trump is always saying that assaults on ICE agents are up by 1,000%, but they say they will look through thousands of pages of court records, and that's just not simply true. I mean, they say it more delicately than that, but it turns out to be BS. Senator Padilla says that same thing, that the president is just using questionable statistics. He just makes stuff up is what it is. I mean, we could just say that, but I guess they're being diplomatic. And that most of these so-called attacks are really just people blocking ICE from grabbing people. There's no injuries. There's no deaths. So I think you're right, LaMikia, that this really unfortunate attack on a National Guard person, people, two of them, is sad, but also not representative of what's happening. People are just trying to protect their neighbors, their friends, their co-workers. They're not actually trying to kill or injure ICE. Do we call them workers, agents, whatever they are?
Right, and how do we know that there's no direct correlation between these two incidents? Between this incident and what's happening with ICE. But again, Donald Trump and his folks make it seem like these things are connected when they're not. I mean, we don't really know what the motive was for this particular young person who, shot the National Guards. And again, it's very unfortunate to see. I know one of the National Guards passed away. The other one is in critical condition, but stable from my understanding. Very, very sad and tragic. What that has to do with ICE and community members who have been, people like myself, right, who've gone out and said, ICE out of LA, like how those are connected, they're not. They're just not connected.
Right. Well, the only connection I see, LaMikia, is when the excuse, but maybe not even really, because when Trump said he was bringing the National Guard to D.C., he said it was because of crime, actually. Later, he started saying, well, it's also because of immigration. But his initial excuse was crime is up, right? And so in that sense, he had them doing something they're not supposed to be doing, which is doing policing work. And now they're saying the National Guard is going to be accompanied by police. Not sure who's guarding who. But to me, that just underlines the fact that this is unconstitutional. If they're doing police work, it's unconstitutional. If they're supposed to be assisting ICE, then standing around on street corners, I don't know how that helps ICE.
It doesn't help ICE. And I was in D.C. A couple days after the National Guard was deployed to D.C., and it had nothing to do with ICE. It had nothing to do with immigration. It had everything to do with Trump claiming that, crime is so high in D.C. and he needed to take over and so on and so forth. And so, again, we don't have to look back that far. This was just in September that this happened, right, that the National Guard was deployed to Washington, D.C. It's only a few months ago. But Trump relies on people or people having a short-term memory, not recalling that and making these connections that, again, I don't think are actually there.
Right. The guy's name is Ramanala Lakanwal. I'm probably saying it wrong. But he actually worked for the CIA for over 10 years in Afghanistan before we withdrew from that country, and that's how he ended up here. So for the president to say that he wasn't vetted is insane. Like, how do you work for the CIA and not be vetted?
Right.
He's facing a first-degree murder charge. He didn't die. They shot him, but he didn't die. That's how you know he's not black. and he is facing first-degree murder and some other charges as well. But to your point, all of these things that are seemingly unrelated are getting piled on to this conversation. Meanwhile, here in LA, the Board of Supervisors is planning to ban those masks, that ICE agents wear. I thought it was kind of redundant myself, LaMikia, because we've already banned them in the state of California.
Right.
But they're saying, well, okay, maybe that's true, but the federal agents are ignoring California law and wearing the masks anyway. And the raids have really stepped up this fall, right? So they're saying since June they've increased. So even though county council says that ordinance would probably be challenged by the supremacy clause, which means that the federal law trumps state and local law, they're set to pass it anyway. But I'm just wondering, what's the point? I mean, are these just protest laws? Because so far, federal agents are ignoring the California law that's already been passed and signed by the governor.
Yeah, I think so. In some regard, yes, it's a protest law, but first, the law that was passed by the governor is Senate Bill 627, and that takes effect on January 1st of 2026. So we still have a month before it actually can be effectively enforced at the state, at the state level. And I think that sometimes what happens with local government is that you have you have a protest, but then you also have we can enforce this almost immediately, and there's like a double enforcement that's happening at the state level and the local level. LA County is not the first local government or entity to pass a law like this or make an effort to pass a law like this. We've seen them happening in Northern California first in the past couple months, immediately after the state of California passed this ban. And so I think it's common practice among local governments to follow suit with the state to make sure that the enforcement can take place, and that I think it also helps with local authorities being able to enforce the policy, though I don't see LAPD or LA County sheriffs really doing much.
Yeah, I don't see that either. Although, to your point, I mean, if the law goes into effect January 1st, the president has already made it clear that they do not plan to follow it. So that's probably what I should have said. They're saying we're not gonna comply anyway. So that's why I wonder, what's the point of passing the ordinance? But I can see what you're saying. It's more laws for them to ignore, more potential enforcement for them to skirt. I don't see Sheriff Luna going in on ICE agents, but you never know. I mean, New York's mayor says they're gonna hold them to account. We'll see if he's really able to do that. Mayor-elect, I should say.
Right. We shall see what happens, especially after that very interesting interaction with him and the president.
What'd you make of it? We only got 30 seconds, but what'd you make of that?
I don't think 30 seconds is enough time for me to share what I make of it.
To me, it was like a Jedi mind trick. I mean, it was kind of like the president just got mesmerized and forgot what he was doing. I mean, I don't know. It was almost like he wanted to date him or something. It was very strange. I was like, ooh. He was like fangirling over Mom Don. That was my takeaway, but it won't last. I don't think it'll last. Anyway, we'll get your take when we come forward after news, traffic, and sports on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with the Ukrainian delegation in Florida as peace talks with Russia continue.
As we've made progress, I think there is a shared vision here that this is not just about ending the war, which is very important. It is about securing Ukraine's future.
Key sticking points include Ukraine giving up territory and limiting its military. The Moratorium Now coalition recently rallied in Detroit, Michigan, demanding full funding for SNAP and the Affordable Care Act. Despite the recent shutdown, food insecurity is rising, with thousands seeking aid daily. Advocates warn cutting ACA could harm millions and urge redirecting funds to food, healthcare, and housing. And Real Housewives of Atlanta star Portia Williams has been cleared in an alleged airplane incident after BravoCon 2025. Federal authorities say she was falsely portrayed as the aggressor and will face no charges. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It was a mixed bag for LA's NFL teams on Sunday. The Carolina Panthers snapped the Rams' 6-game winning streak. The Chargers beat the Las Vegas Raiders 31-14, but quarterback Justin Herbert suffered a fractured bone in his left hand. Herbert will have surgery today. No word yet on how long Herbert will be out. In Carolina's 31-28 win, Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford was intercepted twice. One of the interceptions was returned for a touchdown. It was the first time Stafford had thrown an interception since Week 3 at Philadelphia on September 21st. The Lakers won their 7th straight. They beat New Orleans 133-121. LeBron sat out the game with a sore foot. Luka Doncic had 34 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists. The Lakers are 15-4. The Clippers are in Miami tonight. The 5-15 Clippers have lost 4 straight. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
In a city as big as LA, healthcare shouldn't feel far away. That's why Cedars-Sinai is breaking down barriers and bringing resources like free screenings, vaccinations, and wellness programs into local communities. From Leimert Park to Lincoln Heights and everywhere in between, Cedars-Sinai is showing up, partnering with over 200 local organizations to improve access to healthcare resources. Because care doesn't just happen inside a hospital. It happens in neighborhoods and places around the city where we live, work, and grow. Cedars-Sinai, here for LA.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All investments involve risk, including loss of principal. Options, futures, and crypto trading carry significant risk and may not suit all investors. Securities offered through Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Futures trading is offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Crypto offered through Robinhood Crypto LLC, NMLS ID 1702840, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Portfolio management offered by Robinhood Strategies, an SEC registered advisor.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
With the new IHOP value menu, $6 is all it takes to go to your happy place, where stacks of pancakes with bacon and eggs are just $6 every day. French toast, sausage, and eggs are, you guessed it, $6. And fluffy omelets come with a side of pancakes and only cost $6. Go to your happy plates every day at IHOP. $7 in some locations. Available every day for a limited time at participating restaurants in the U.S. Hours may vary. No substitutions. Not valid with other discounts or promotions. Prices may vary.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take DayQuil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the DayQuil.
Undo your flu symptoms with DayQuil Intense Flu. DayQuil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
DayQuil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu, medicine. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And today you're waking up with LaMikia Castillo, also founder and principal of Castillo Consulting Partners, LLC. LaMikia, do you want to say anything else about the Trump-Mamdani meeting?
I thought it was pretty laughable. I loved when one of the reporters asked Mamdani about calling Donald Trump a fascist, and he was about to respond, and then Donald Trump said, "Oh, just say yes. Just say yes. It makes it easier." It just felt like we were all being gaslit. Like, are we watching a comedy sketch? I couldn't really tell. But I mean, personally, I feel like, I know we have to, we need to get more, folks like somewhat to like Mamdani in these elected into positions. I'm not the biggest fan, honestly. I feel like he's walked back on so many of the things that I was aligned with him on, right? Like defunding the police. He used to say that we need to defund the police. He said now that, that was just because how he felt in the moment, seeing George Floyd be murdered, growing up in New York, seeing, Eric Gardner lose his life at the hands of state-sanctioned violence and things like that. I just have questions about him and other politicians who come in and say the right things that draw in folks who are, more progressive and want to see shifts in leadership, and then they move toward the middle. And I feel like that happens every time. I know you had Tandiwe Abdullah on here talking about that a couple weeks ago, and I'm not as young as Tandiwe, but I do align with a lot of what they had to say about what's going on with politics today, and these folks are not our saviors, and Mamdani is one of those examples, I think.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what he does when he gets in office. I give a little bit more grace to these folks because I know you're probably not going to get elected mayor of New York City saying defund the police, no matter how much you or any other progressive wants them to say it. But the question is, what do you do when you get in? And I think to Tandiwe's point, a lot of times it's not just a more inflammatory rhetoric that they back away from. It's any progressive action. Where are the wins? I need to see the wins. Like, what are you doing? We can look over to Mexico and see Claudia Sheinbaum, who ran as a progressive and is doing progressive things. Like, you can do it. It's possible. But I think, why call them progressive posers? So many of our politicians call themselves that, but then when they get elected, they don't do jack. And that's where the problem lies. You sent a really interesting article about these young, presumably more progressive candidates who are challenging safe blue seats. And I think you're looking. This article focuses on the House of Representatives, so their national offices, but we do see this happening locally as well. If from the mayor's race here in LA to assembly races, city council seats, it seems to be a trend. What's your takeaway from this? This particular article talks about a Sacramento person running in Napa County, an LA area person, and somebody from I can't remember where the other one is. Someone challenging Brad Sherman on the West Side. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, my take on this is that young folks are tired of the same old with, politicians who've been around for a long time. Some of these folks are running for their 16th term, which is, to me, that's, at some point you have to be able to cultivate leadership in the next generation and, pass the torch. That's how I see it. And I feel like so many of our politicians don't do that. They become, lifelong elected officials. They get reelected. They get comfortable in their seats, and they're not thinking about the next generation in terms of leadership development. That's one of the things that I feel like is so critical to changing of the guard, is that you have to invest in the next generation of leaders. And I don't see enough of our elected officials doing that. They retire. They haven't prepared, younger folks to take on the leadership roles that they have been holding for so long. One of the things that I saw in the article that I sent to you was, I think one of the elected officials in Northern California said that she's been in office for a long time. She holds these relationships in Washington, D.C. This is what we need, under the Trump administration. And I think that there's some validity to that. Every day is something new, as we talk about here on the show, that comes up with Donald Trump, that people maybe don't expect. The laws are not very clear on some of these things, or he and his team find these arcane aspects of the law that were written 200 years ago and say, we're going to apply this piece of the law to this, and then go challenge us in the Supreme Court. I don't know that anybody's prepared for that, whether they've been in Washington, D.C. for 40 years, or they're 40 years old and are trying to get in there for the first time today. But I do think that if you've been in elected position for even 2 terms and you have not started to cultivate new leadership, then you're a part of the problem.
Okay, so
right?
a couple things about that, LaMikia. I mean, on the one hand, we do need younger leadership. You have this May Vang person who's 40 running against Doris Matsui. This is the one in the Napa County area. Matsui is 81, and I get that. I had a big argument with my dad, may he rest in peace, about this one time, because I was saying that Robert Mugabe should step down, like he's been in office too long. And my dad said we only like term limits when we have a problem with our leadership. And so, I can see arguments for both. The Congress, especially the House of Representatives, is a seniority-based system. So when you go in there as a freshman congressperson, you're not on any committees and you have almost no clout. So I do think that's a legit argument. On the other hand, I agree with you that we don't do enough succession planning, especially as Black people, but I think as anybody, we just don't do enough. And I do think when you start seeing people nodding off in meetings like our president is doing and not able to come in and cast votes, that's a problem.
It is. It absolutely is a problem. And I hear what you're saying, right, about, yes, it is a seniority-based system. But if we have, I would love to do some kind of analysis on this, right? Look at the ages of who's in office right now, how long they've been there, and then when we can expect that they're going to leave. And if we have a large group of folks who, like a cohort of, Congress members who are going to be leaving around the same time because they were elected at around the same time they've been in office, then you're going to have a really big problem, right? Which is that now you have all of these, junior or freshman Congress members coming in, and none of them have any positions in any committees in the House. And that's going to be, I think, a bigger tragedy, because then what happens?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that type of analysis needs to be done. I don't know that, folks in leadership in the Democratic Party are looking at that in the ways that they should be. And I think that some of these younger folks who are challenging the incumbents are saying, hey, we need y'all to move in a different direction. We're not trying to get rid of everybody. There's, I think he was the president of the Young Democrats in California who commented in this article that, I'm not saying we need to change everybody. I don't even know who I'm going to vote for in this particular situation, but I do know that something has to change, and we need to get, we need to diversify, I guess, the leadership is all I'm saying.
Right. I mean, and I'm looking at this Napa County situation where you have Representative Mike Thompson, who's 74, he's a Vietnam vet. The guy challenging him is 34, and he's a venture capitalist. Now, I would need to know a little bit more, but just based on those descriptions, if I've got a young challenger who's to the right of, a veteran safe seat Democrat, I'm going to go to the one that's more progressive. I'm going to pick policy over age, is what I'm saying, unless the person is completely incapacitated and unable to take care of their duties in office. And as I always say on the show, everybody's 80 is not the same. I'll take, Congresswoman Maxine Waters' 86 over Donald Trump's 79 anytime. And it's not just because of the policies. Congresswoman Waters is, walking the Kingdom Day parade in stilettos, like looking jazzy and bopping to the beat. Trump
Absolutely.
is falling asleep into his Diet Coke at Mar-a-Lago looking like, let me not say what.
No, Dominic, it's true. I agree with you on that point. To me, it just reinforces the need for folks who are in leadership positions now who've been around for a while to really cultivate the next generation of leaders. Because then when it's time for them to leave, they can pass the torch. They need to be succession planning. They're not. I don't see enough of that happening. I mean, I think that there are some elected officials where you see folks who have, that they've cultivated in leadership, stepping into different positions. I mean, honestly, Mayor Bass, right? Marquise Harris Dawson came after her at Community Coalition and then went into elected office at City Council. And you see others, right? Others that she's worked with where she's been developing folks. I don't know that people are aware of that, but developing folks to be able to step into these types of leadership positions in elected office. I just think that we need to see more of that so that there doesn't need to feel like this infighting, right, with a younger person trying to take over for an incumbent because the incumbent has been around for 40 years and they're not doing anything to build somebody else up to prepare them to take on that leadership.
Right. Paul says there's too much gatekeeping, right? And I can see that. He says way too much gatekeeping, not enough contingency plans to pass the baton. And also we get mad when we say, oh, they anointed their successor, they coronated someone. We're always complaining about that. So, you can't have it both ways. Either they're grooming someone to be their replacement, or it's let the dice fall where they may, or the cards, or whatever the saying is, fall where they may. Like, you know what I'm saying? We criticized, Karen Bass and others received criticism for preparing Holly Mitchell to step into the Senate and then the Board of Supervisors at the same time. We complain that people aren't succession planning. Which is it? Which do you want?
Right. It's true.
LaMikia Castillo.
Yeah, and I think it's succession planning and then prep. Sorry. I'm so sorry. No, we have to go.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's succession planning and then also just preparing people for leadership in general, right? Because Holly Mitchell also helped to prepare folks for leadership positions, and it wasn't necessarily to succeed her, but to step into new roles. And so I think there has to be both of those conversations. How do I, cultivate new leadership to take over where I am so that we don't lose that institutional memory and knowledge that comes with being in a position of leadership for so long? And how do we also just invest in a lot of young people to get them prepared for leadership, whether they're going to succeed me in my role or not, just getting them ready to step up into leadership in different places.
800-920-1580 if you want to weigh in. LaMikia Castillo and Dominic DePrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you coughing a lot, especially at night? Are you often short of breath? Are you using your rescue inhaler often? These could be signs that your asthma is not under control. To keep your asthma in check and help prevent an asthma attack, ask your healthcare provider for an asthma action plan. This is a personalized plan you create with your doctor that shows you what to do and what medicines to help control your asthma and to use when you're having a hard time breathing or when you're having an asthma attack. Please don't wait until you're having an asthma attack. Do something about it now. Schedule a visit with your healthcare provider today to make that action plan and take control of your asthma. For more tips and resources on the management of asthma, visit luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca. Established in 2020 during a time of deep racial unrest across our state and country, the Black Freedom Fund was created to make sure that leaders and organizations working to support Black communities and build power have the resources they need to stay in the fight for the long haul. We believe that those closest to the issues impacting our communities know best how to solve them. That's why in just the last 5 years, we've granted more than $45 million to over 200 grassroots organizations across California. That is the largest collective investment in Black organizing in history, and we're just getting started. We are clear-eyed and committed, more now than ever, to our people, our power, and our possibility. Join us in creating a future where Black people harness their full power to shape their lives and realize a just world for all. Learn more at fundblackfreedom.org. That's fundblackfreedom.org. The Black Freedom Fund is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
You do so much going on over the weekend. I hope you had a lovely holiday. I don't know if you celebrate, but it's always great to have a couple days off and break bread with family. I know I got a chance to spend some time chilling, which was really great for me. But it's, hopefully you had a great one with your family as well, LaMikia.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't necessarily celebrate Thanksgiving, but definitely appreciate the opportunity to take a few days off. And we had a beautiful time with family. Needed that rest and chill.
Yeah. It's really sad to see, over the holiday weekend, this story in Stockton. And I almost feel like I don't know what to say about these mass shootings anymore. I do a terrible job reporting on them. Sometimes I don't report on them at all. It's not because I don't care, because I have no take anymore. 4 people were killed. 11 people were injured. This was Saturday night at a birthday party. And, one of the people that was killed was, there were 3 of them were kids. One of them was just 8. They're saying they don't know for sure, but it looks like a gang violence. And I know that's an issue in the Stockton area. Stockton is a very small town in the Central Valley, just 300,000 people. And they've had some gang war scenarios there. Latino gangs in this case.
Yeah, I mean, it's really heartbreaking, and I think, in my mind, right, whether it's a gang-related shooting or a mass shooting that is not gang-related, the reality is the one thing that they all have in common is that people have access to these guns that they can go around and just take people's lives. And how tragic that at a birthday party, right, that a child was killed and that there were 3 other people who were killed as a result of a lack of restraints on who has access to weapons in this country. My heart goes out to the family and the children. I see that the ages were 8, 9, and 14-year-olds, and then a 21-year-old, so all very young, who were killed in this act of violence against babies.
Yeah, I don't know.
think there's any other way to say it.
Right, and what kind of gang activity is that? Let's go shoot some children. Also, I feel really sad for all the other kids that were there that didn't die, because they're going to be traumatized for the rest of their lives.
It is extremely traumatizing. When I was a child, I actually witnessed a shooting. I actually had a gun put to my head, and it is extremely, extremely traumatizing as a child to be involved in an experience like that, and it sticks with you for the rest of your life, and it has impacts greater than you could ever imagine. I was 3 when a gun was put to my head, 3 years old, and I've shared this story, and I actually wrote about it many years ago because I would have these nightmares about it, and I hadn't talked to my mom until I was probably 18 or 19, and she didn't even know that I had remembered what had happened in that particular situation. And I never got any therapy or anything like that for it. And I just think about those children who witnessed it, experienced it, and what that means for them for the rest of their lives. And it is, having experienced it myself, it is a very painful and difficult thing to live with, knowing that you're here, somebody else is not, and, you know, just being a child and going through that is beyond traumatizing.
Wow, that's really scary, LaMikia. I mean, I actually had a gun held on me too, but I was not a kid. I was already in college at that point. Still scary though, but I'm surprised you never had to get any kind of therapy or anything like that and are able to sleep through the night and things like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably should at this point go and talk to somebody about it, but it definitely has had lifelong implications for me and also my siblings who were present.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry to hear that. And that's the part that we have to do better on too. I think whether it's COVID or violence is following up with young people and giving them the counseling, grace, and support, whatever other support they need to come out of it. I think we've done a terrible job of supporting young people coming out of COVID. There was a lot of lip service. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, but I haven't seen it actually happening. And I've heard from friends I have who are teachers and also college professors, I wonder if you've observed this, that the kids that came out of that COVID cohort, if you will, that were coming into college or coming out of high school during that period, which we're still seeing that pipeline, are just not functioning at the same level that prior cohorts of kids did.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like what should be obvious reasons to folks, right? I mean, their lives were completely flipped upside down for multiple years, and the like you said, the trauma, the isolation that they have felt. I'm really worried about what this means for this cohort of young people into the future, right? Like it's like my experience at 3 years old, having a gun put to my head and witnessing that type of violence. This sticks with you for the rest of your life. That's going to have impacts and implications for them in their relationships, in their careers, all kinds of places in their lives and points in their lives that people probably are not necessarily thinking about, and there are not enough resources being provided for that. With Castillo Consulting Partners, we actually did an analysis of what high school students in LAUSD wanted coming out of the pandemic, and the number one thing was actually resources to address mental health needs, and LAUSD and LA County all agreed to doing something about that, and I haven't seen the types of resources that the students had requested. I haven't seen that type of investment being made for them at this time.
I haven't seen it either. And all the colleges were saying they were going to make exceptions or some kind of provisions for those children. And as a mom whose child had to apply right out of the COVID disaster into college, I'll tell you, there was nothing. Zippo. You're going to have to sink or swim with your COVID trauma and your COVID grades. And I had a child who was an A and B student prior to the pandemic, and not that during the pandemic at all. So I've seen it myself, and I read the data about how many kids were flunking classes in LAUSD during COVID. It's just insane. So now for us to say, oh, we don't have any budget money and we're just going to pretend nothing happened, I think it's going to your point, I think we're going to pay a price with this whole generation of kids.
Absolutely. And I know we are running out of time here, but I was going to say, as a professor who taught during the pandemic and through that time, I absolutely gave my students grace. I'm going to be honest, my grading was just a little more, I don't want to say lax, but I definitely would speak to students about what they were dealing with their families and their households and things of that nature, and made sure that I was making accommodations to meet those particular needs, recognizing that I too, right, had very young children. I still have young children, but very young children at that time, a newborn actually, and was trying to figure out how to navigate life in that space. And I don't see how anybody could not give everybody grace in that period and then try to figure out how to support the students as best as they could. So I don't know. You started off with optimism at the top of this discussion today, and I'm going to try to end this with some optimism. I'm hopeful that we do figure out how to provide resources to the family and all the kids at that birthday party, and also the students and everybody else who's living through this trauma that we're all dealing with right now under the Trump administration.
Absolutely. Well, we got to leave it there. We're up against news, traffic, and sports. You can find her at LaMikia Castillo on Instagram. LaMikia, thank you.
Thank you.
News, traffic, and sports and more. Only right here.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with the Ukrainian delegation in Florida as peace talks with Russia continue.
As we've made progress, I think there's a shared vision here that this is not just about ending the war, which is very important. It is about securing Ukraine's future.
He's thinking